Exactly 1 week ago, some troubling news was circulating and was flooding our text messages and our WhatsApp chats. And at first glance, when I saw the disturbing news, I thought to myself, that must be very, very difficult for that particular school and community to be going through. I feel for them, and I feel for the victims. And then, more news and more information came out about how it wasn't only implicating a school outside of our community, but a community school very close to home. And once I saw that this was the information that was being shared, I knew that it was going to be very, very impactful, and it was going to provide very limiting and tough consequences for us and for what it is that we do. And when I first thought about how I felt, recognizing the changes that were inevitable, I was sad. I was angry, I was frustrated, and I said to myself, this isn't fair. Why? And then, in turn, you lovely students provided your own feedback in your own gracious ways. It was a nice petition that went out, which only brought to my attention,
200 people.
The seriousness and the sensitivity that is not being taken into account for something of such a magnitude, and it's something that I feel needs to be addressed. I'm sure some of the thoughts and some of the ideas were, why our school? We're fine. That stuff can't happen to a kid like me. That stuff would never happen in a school like ours. And boys, these thoughts are the very ideas that get kids like you into trouble to begin with. And if we don't start taking this seriously, if we don't start owning up to the seriousness of what it is that others have been victimized by, then we're serving an injustice to those that were hurt. We're only damaging ourselves and the potential of our future. And it's something that needs to be addressed. See, when I was your age, as an 8th grader, I remember I had an orthodontist appointment, which I did not want to go to, but I was going to go to. And I said to myself, I want to run quickly to the mini market. Let me go get some candy, right? Ironically enough, before the orthodontist, I was going to buy some candy. And I ran across the street. I jaywalked. I ran in between traffic. And I got hit by a car.
Huh? Oh, is it real?
Real story. Mad story. I was hit by a car when I was in the 8th grade. I was hit so hard that the car literally took me from in the street and I landed on the sidewalk. It was like out of a movie, I promise you. I landed on my feet and I got up, and at first I said, I must be in pain. But then I started to walk. And then I felt around and I said, I don't feel anything. And I did what any normal adolescent boy would do in that position. I said to myself, I am so strong, I can withstand a car accident. That is how strong I am. I am invincible. Because we do this all the time. We think that there is nothing that can stop us. Not even a moving car hitting me at 60 miles an hour. And that's when I learned what adrenaline was. You see, in my body, there was all of this energy, adrenaline rushing through my system, that it made me numb to the pain that was inevitable. And sure enough, 20 minutes later, I'm on the city bus. I call my mother, hey ma, can't go to the orthodontist. I promise you, a mad story. Aaron, there is no excuse you can give me that you will tell me that you're not going to go to the orthodontist. You are going to the orthodontist.
I said, Mom,
I said, Ma, I can't get hit by a car. What? You got hit by a car? Where are you? I'm kind of like, Ma, I'm fine. And as I said that, I was like, I'm fine. And pain was rushing down my body that I've never felt in my whole life. It rendered me so limited that I could not walk for months, I could not go on my senior trip. I never went on my 8th grade senior trip when I was in 8th grade. And boys, it calls back to our attention, okay? This idea that this can't happen to me, this idea that it would never happen in our school. I am sure if you asked any of the victims of any of these very, very disturbing circumstances, if they would have thought that they could have ever been that kid, if their school would have ever been that school, they all would have told you the same thing that you're thinking about right now. So the fact that we are not taking this as serious as it needs to be is a problem.
Shut a candle.
Boys, throughout history, we have always challenged the status quo of convenience. Think about smoking, right? You were allowed to smoke in this society basically anywhere you wanted. It was even allowable and legal in hospitals. Children were being born, and literally you were allowed to smoke in that presence, right? Until we cut back and we sanctioned where you're allowed to smoke and how you're allowed to smoke and all of that stuff. And the age that you're allowed to smoke. Right? Huh?
There's AIDS?
100%. Everybody has certain age
Who first stopped us? And then the laws came in.
There used to be laws about seatbelts. You didn't used to have to wear a seatbelt when you were driving a car. Then there were so many car accidents, we changed that law too. And think about airport security. Before September 11th, it was such a convenience and a breeze to go through airport security. Now all of a sudden, right? When you think about how much time you need to leave before you have a flight, you're not thinking about minutes, you're not thinking about an hour, or you're talking about 3 hours, right? And that's inconvenient. And it's hard. But it's the price of safety, boys. Don't you feel good? Don't you feel confident and secure when you go through an airport? Yeah, it's annoying. Take off your shoes, take off your belt, liquids. They're screaming about laptops. Why can't my laptop just be in the regular bag? I have to take the laptop out of the bag and put it through the... Why? Why are you making me go through charades? Socks on, socks off, belt on, belt... Just let me walk through the damn conveyor belt. I don't understand. What are you driving me crazy for? You're driving me so crazy, I don't even want to fly anymore. I'm going back to Brooklyn.
No.
But boys,
Chill with that.
the idea that you do not have to worry about your own security and your own freedom, that is invaluable, that is priceless. And it's unfortunate that we live in a society, we live in a day and age where human beings had to go through something so horrific, so horrible. But you know what, boys? Special people are always willing to learn and to adapt their practices. And I can speak on behalf of all of the educators who are in this field for the right reasons. Yeah, it's going to be tough. Yeah, it's going to be a bit inconvenient. But you know what, boys? I said this to you last week, and I'll say it to you again today. I will always be there for you, and we will always figure out a way to make sure that we can have the most meaningful of times together, the most fun times together. And it may have to look a little bit differently, but that's okay. Because at the end of the day, boys, something you need to know is that you always come first. At the forefront of my mind, before I speak and before I make any decisions, I am always thinking about what is best for children, what is best for you. And if being best for you means that we have to work a little bit differently, then that's the best damn decision I made all day. And it doesn't mean that we have to completely cut away from what it was that we were doing together. We will still have fun, we will still do what we usually do. But sometimes, for the price of safety, we need to be a bit inconvenienced. It happened with seatbelts, with airport security, and now we're living in a day and age where it's even happening with the relationship between teachers and students. Let us learn from what it is that others have been victimized by. Let us not allow their horrific experiences to be left in vain. without anything meaningful and substantial to be different about what it is that we do and how we do. Let's take this seriously. Let's not assume that it's not us and that it can't be us, because once upon a time other people thought the same way, and guess how it turned out for them. The school spoke to you last week about who your safe people are, about the different strategies and techniques of what you can use. And this is not just about school, boys. Anytime somebody comes and invades your territory, invades your space, that is something that you should be able to speak out about. Whether it's in school, whether it's in shul, whether it's on the street, whether it's in basketball, wherever it is. So boys, let us learn from the experience. Let us make sure that we do what is right. Let us be safe. And of course, no matter what it is, we will always do it together.
Shabbat shalom.